Hello guys and welcome to an NGB video review. I am Ben and I'm joined by Nico. How are we doing, my good man?
Hey Ben, yeah, not doing too badly, thank you very much. Yourself?
I'm not too bad, and we are here to discuss the Division 2 and the sort of loot shooter, as it were, from Ubisoft. You've been playing it on the PS4, I've been playing it on the PC. So, you sort of, what are your thoughts on it so far? I think we're probably about the same kind of area in the game, sort of similar levels. So, how have you found it?
Yeah, so personally, I have some mixed views on it. There are certain things that I like, certain things that I dislike. Unfortunately, I think the things I dislike are the sort of key parts of the game. If I sort of start from the beginning, my initial thoughts, I loaded into the game and was presented with what I thought was a pretty impressive creation suite, just setting up a character, but there was quite a lot of options there. Something that you haven't really seen in other looter shooters that I played, at least. Giving like real in-depth creation tools for faces, tattoos, all sorts. So I really like that part. I think, just the overall gameplay, I'm kind of finding it a bit too repetitive for my liking. I know that's kind of the nature of a looter shooter, that you do the same things over and over again, but I'm not quite finding the third person view too, I don't want to say the word interesting. I don't feel like I have complete control over where my gun is going at times. I don't know if that's because I'm used to now playing on PC with a mouse and keyboard at times, and going back to PS4 and playing with a controller again. For me personally, that kind of feels a little bit off. But like I said, I have some mixed reviews. There's some definite positives, some negatives that we'll sort of get into. But I think very much this game, whether you enjoy it, is going to depend on what type of games you already enjoy.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, I think you skipped. Did you skip the first one?
I did skip the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I played quite a lot of the first one, but ended up I fell off it quite hard when I got to level 30 in the end game because there wasn't a huge amount of content there straight away. It did drop off quite quickly, and I think the way that they put the seasons out and stuff like that, it was all paid DLC. So I may be misremembering that, but I think that was the case. And when I got to that point, I didn't feel like I wanted to pay any more into it, and I kind of dropped off it quite quickly. But with this one, what they've done is they've been quite open in all the development, and they've said, look, we're focusing kind of on an end game first development, so you kind of get through the main game, and then it's almost a little bit like the main game is a bit of a tutorial, and then the end game stuff is where it really kicks in. But at least that's what it sounds like. I'm currently level 25, 26, so I'm not quite at the end game. But there are some people in the group I've been playing with, and they have hit level 30, and I've been playing alongside them, and they've got quite a lot of additional things. So there is quite a lot to do. It is kind of an extension of the first game in that some of the activities are quite similar to the ones that were in the first one, but essentially, I personally I didn't take to the story all that much. I mean, did you really get invested in that, or did you?
It felt like a very uninspired kind of standard generic story that you're going to get in a game like this. It's just one of those. I think a lot of games in this genre have suffered from that, where the initial story campaign before you sort of get into the more end-game stuff is really just there to kind of sort of open you up to the universe, or the Division's universe, so to speak, like an MCU or such. So I didn't think it just felt uninspired. It's kind of the main thing. I don't want to put any spoilers in there, but it didn't feel to me anything I can get behind. I will say this, you could see that they were trying to get you to form an attachment to the sort of surrounding characters. I don't think this is too much of a spoiler, but right at the very beginning, the first character you meet, Manny, they show like a little hologram visual of something that happened in his past, which I think is, sort of there to sort of help create that attachment to those characters, but it just didn't quite land with me.
Okay. Yeah, I think I get what you mean. I think there's a whole. It does seem a little bit like you have this generic sort of disaster movie plot.
Yeah.
But for me, I think the difference is, and I recently reviewed Anthem, and I think the big thing for me was as I was playing through that, I was like, there was nothing really to grab me, and I had a lot of issues with bugs and glitches and crashes, things like that, and I really didn't get on with it. But what happened with what happened with the Division 2, sorry, is that I found myself going back to it more and more and more, even though there wasn't a huge amount of like signposting to certain things in the game. Like I got to a certain point, and I actually spoke to one of the people that I was doing the missions with, and I was like, "By the way, how do you do this?" And they said, "Oh, it's here, and you go here, and you do this." I was like, "Oh, that makes sense now." But I don't know if I missed something or if I skipped past something I wasn't supposed to skip past. But there is something that felt a little bit kind of scrambled about it. Like you can do the story missions in any order you want. You can, if you squad up with somebody that's of a much higher level, it will drag you up to their level. So, you can go into a mission that should be your level but ends up being 10 higher, and it'll pull you through. They'll pull you through if you really go at it, kind of thing. But I've been really enjoying my time with it so far. I'm intrigued to see where they go with the end game stuff. I know that you've got what was it? I know that you sort of said that. Let's just go back to the gameplay stuff, because I know you said that the third person stuff hasn't really done it for you. If that were, if it were a first person game, do you think you probably have a bit more of a better time with it?
I do genuinely think so. Listen, I will fully put my hands up and say, I've been playing a lot of Destiny over the last couple of years, and my mind now with loot shooters is definitely tuned towards this first person point of view. So when I've been playing The Division for the last, week and a bit, when I try and take these shots and I try and be accurate, I just can't quite. I can't quite get the pinpoint accuracy that I want. I do think, if you have a first-person point of view, that becomes easier. And I think it sort of takes away from the skill, like, personally, or at least my skill. That's, I'm definitely better trained in using a first-person point of view than a third-person. I've done it, obviously, I made this comparison previously, but it reminds me of Uncharted, that type of gunplay. But without, the incredible amount of aim assist. It feels secondary. The gunplay feels secondary to the rest of the game, which is not, in my opinion, it's not great when the gunplay is the gameplay. I think though, going along with that, there's some cool use of skills, grenades. Like swapping back and forth between all of that is quite good. I really enjoyed using the turret, which is a lot easier to set up and chuck around when you're in third person view. So I sort of enjoyed third person for that particular gadget.
Yeah.
So there's obviously, I'm not saying that it's a terrible way of playing a game. I obviously see the advantages to it, and you have a much wider point of view when you are actually playing the game. I think it's a personal thing, that I'm so used to first-person shooters now that I actually lose some of my skill when I then go into third-person view.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from on it. I mean, to me, coming again, I'm doing a lot of comparing to Anthem, because really that's kind of, you have the most recent game that you've played, basically. The coming off Anthem, to me, the gunplay and the combat feels a lot more hard hitting in this. It feels a lot more sort of crunchy, is the word that somebody used, and I quite like that. It sort of feels. The enemies do become bullet sponges towards the end, but that was you're not going to avoid that in this kind of a game because you need
that was
to.
a massive problem in the first game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was huge. I mean, it got to a point where you were emptying sort of full clips into people's heads and they weren't doing anything. But in this one, it's scaled back a little bit, but there's definitely still some element of that. But I just want to talk a little bit about some of the gadgets. You mentioned the turret there. Did you unlock the flame turret?
I didn't know.
Oh, the flame turret is...
So I tried to spread out a bit.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I have as well. I've gone through and unlocked all of the sort of first levels of stuff, and you can unlock them in any order, but... the flame turret is just amazing. Like if you unlock it, and then if you come up in an area where there's going to be enemies coming down a corridor, you just drop your flame turret and they'll just run. And I think there's some areas where the AI is a little bit wonky. Like they'll kind of run straight into the flame turret, or they'll you can turn it on and off. So you basically turn it on, huge swathes of flame just shoot down the corridor and engulf whoever's in front of it, and then you turn it off and they'll then continue to run. Like it's just it's so good. But like the whole thing, everything seems to kind of fit really nicely, and if you coordinate with your team, you'll be able to put together some really interesting and really good strategic moves. And I think that's where this game sort of stands out a little bit. As opposed to something like Anthem, where it's kind of a bit, okay, right, well, we're going to get these three things, and they're kind of the same, but they're not, you've got different abilities, but ultimately we're going to end up with the same outcome. And it just,
Can I
don't know.
Did you play with anyone?
Yes. Yeah, so I've a lot of the gameplay that I've played so far has been with a few guys on PC.
Right.
And I think it's an argument that I know doesn't hold a lot of weight because Johnny mentioned this in his review of Fallout 76 last year, and he said that the argument of it's much more fun with friends doesn't really hold up, because ultimately, anything can be a lot more fun with friends if you
sure.
if you've got people to share the experience with. Anything can be a lot more fun. And I think the difference is, for me, is that you can make fun, or you can make your own fun in a bad game when you've got friends there. But I personally find myself going back into Division 2 and just doing, like a public execution or something like that on my own, and then joining in with other people and sharing the experience that way. So it feels like it's a fun game on its own right. But it's definitely a vast improvement over the first game. There's a huge amount of content in there to launch with. I know there was... I mean, we were talking about this... I can't remember who it was I was talking about it to, but we sort of said, after a couple of days of the game being out, there were streamers there going, oh, there's no content, and they showed their hour count, and it was like 50, 60 hours. And you sat there thinking, like, that's not a fair statement to make. Just because you can plow 50 hours in 4 days into a game, it doesn't mean there's no content. It just means that you've gone through a hell of a lot of it.
Yeah, exactly. No, I do agree with that. And I would say, because I don't want it to seem like I'm crapping on the game at all. I actually think the game is really good in certain areas. And just quickly, I wanted to point out just how deep I feel the game can be. With the fact that you can craft, you have some really cool mods that you can do to your guns. I just think it does have a lot of cool perks as well. It is quite a deep game in terms of customization for weapons and how you play. Like I said, there's loads of different gadgets. So I do think from many points that the Division 2 is hitting a lot of really key things right.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's we were having a chat just before we started recording with Nick from the site, and he was saying that one of the things that he felt was that this is the best state that one of these games, sort of in quotes, has launched.
Yeah.
And I
Agreed.
think he's right. Because yeah, as I said, the first one there was just this huge drop off, like a massive drop off in content straight away, unless you forked out for the season pass. But what they've done in this one is they've just crammed in so much stuff, like just into the game, into the base game. And then what they've said is that all of the like the content packs will be free.
Yeah,
So if you,
which is amazing.
yeah, and I think the fact that they've done that is it shows a commitment to the game, and I think Ubisoft have kind of got a bit of a reputation for that now, in that the games will launch in a state that some people might go, well, this is okay, but it could get better, and then they support them really well throughout the lifespan.
Mm.
Where I think the Division 2 comes and sort of stands out a little bit is that the game has launched in a really good state, and they've said, right, and everything that we add to this from this point will be free unless you get the season pass, in which case I think you'll get some like early access to different operator types or whatever it is that they've said. So yeah, I'm personally really enjoying it. I can see myself playing this for quite a while. I wouldn't say that this has got its hooked into me quite as much as the likes of, say, Destiny 2 did, because I know Destiny 2 is currently my most played game on the PlayStation. And
Very
I
happy
would
to hear
probably,
that.
as I say, I could probably guess that it's yours as well.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that was why I was really interested to see your take on it, because I know when the code came through, I said, okay, would you want to give this a go? Because I know you're a massive Destiny fan, and I kind of wanted to see how you'd pick up on it and how it compares to Destiny. And I think what Nick said in terms of the game launching, the Division 2, from my point of view, is a better game at its launch than maybe
Yeah.
Destiny 2 was at its launch.
I wouldn't argue with that. I think that and this is what I wish Anthem did. I think they've learnt from the mistakes of their previous title and also the other titles surrounding it. You know, it's not a jam-packed genre. You know, we have maybe 3 or 4 games in this looter shooter genre that are, notable. And I
Yeah.
think Anthem kind of dropped the ball with it, maybe taking things for granted, with it being EA. And I think Division 2's done fantastically well. You know, they have the hidden secrets in the game. They've got the deep customization. I from what I said earlier, that is my opinion on what I enjoy in gameplay. That is not a reflection on the actual game itself, because I know that there are plenty of people who enjoy this style of gameplay. So I don't want that to muddy what I'm saying. I do think that the way the game is launched is fantastic, and I've seen how people are enjoying it. That says everything. That people are genuinely loving this game, and like you say, you feel the urge to jump back in and do things solo as well as in a team. So I think it's a great state to start the game, and now there's just more stuff that's going to come and build upon it.
And I think it would be remiss if I didn't sort of say that yes, there obviously are some issues with it. Playing on PC, there have been some stability problems. I know some of the guys that I've been playing with, they will be in the middle of something, and then all of a sudden they'll just drop out, and on the Discord chat they'll be like, "Oh shit, my game crashed. Okay, let's jump back on." But the cool thing about it is that it recognizes that when you get logged back in, it will just put you straight back where you were. Like, it'll put you straight back in the same
That's
squad.
great.
Yeah, so that it'll basically put you straight back in the same squad, in the same building, in the same mission, and you won't lose out on any of the rewards that you've gotten. So it's good that that's happening, but it's obviously not good that the fact that the game crashes to get to that point, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I've not had any crashing on PlayStation. But then I think the game is less of an issue as it is just a fact. The game's at 30 frames per second on PlayStation,
Yes.
and playing on PC as regularly as I do now, I really feel the hit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm really intrigued to see the footage of the PS4 version, because I recently updated my PC, so I've now got I'm running an RTX 2060 in my PC, so it was quite refreshing. It was like one of those moments where you just kind of put all the sliders up to ultra and see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm running the game in 1080p at ultra settings, like literally everything is maxed, and it's a rock solid 60 frames. And I mean, there have been a few moments where the game hitches a little bit, and I think that's mainly around when there's like a lot of fire effects that kind of just spring into life. So there's probably some settings I can tweak for that. But on the whole, I mean, the world that they've crafted and the sort of the environmental storytelling stuff like that as well. It's really really good. Like you can wander down a back alley and find something that then doesn't necessarily trigger a mission, but you'll see something and go, "Oh, I wonder what happened there," and then
Yeah.
you'll you might find something else a little bit further down, which sort of semi explains it, and it's really cool. The one thing that I'm not a hugest, not the biggest fan of, rather, is that if you go into like an enemy encampment somewhere, they might have like the words "drug kitchen" with a big arrow pointing towards a room. You're like, if I was going to be doing that, I probably wouldn't maybe advertise that fact.
I know the world is in like a sort of a state where law enforcement's not around, but still it's a little bit on the nose.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll start to we'll probably wrap it up. I think the time that I've had with it has been really really enjoyable. The actual irony of it is, you were saying that you've missed kind of the precision of the mouse and keyboard on the PC. I've actually been playing it on a PC, but I've been playing it with a controller for the most part, just because I think I'm moving back to kind of playing a few more games on the PC now that I've upgraded it, and I think I'm just used to having a controller in my hand at this point. So
for sure, yeah.
But yeah, I can't say I felt like it's been a hindrance. I mean, we haven't even touched on the Dark Zone stuff. Now, the Dark Zone was an incredibly rewarding yet incredibly frustrating experience in the first game. And it seems to be kind of the same in this one, but they've also done a little bit more to kind of mitigate some of the trolling and the griefing and that sort of stuff that goes on. So I've had a few runs into the Dark Zone, got some decent loot, and come back out. Not seen too many other players, but when we have, we've had that sort of really tense Mexican standoff around the helicopter. When you've got two full groups that have got really decent gear, and it's quite tense. It can lead to some really cool moments, but I've really enjoyed my time with it so far. Have you decided on a score yet, or is that kind of going to be?
I mean,
in an iron?
I think if I'm sort of taking out more personal views, I think the game is a very solid, at minimum 8, right? Minimum 8, because I do think it does a lot of things incredibly well. Like I said, I love the fact that it's as deep as it is in terms of customization, that there are secrets to be unlocked. Like, I've heard about so much things that I haven't even got to yet. And that, just the fact that they're there, that's enough for me to know that that's a good thing, like you mentioned the Dark Zone, I went in, I did not do well, it's PvP for me, it's always been something I've had to work hard to be good at. So playing a completely different style, like I mentioned earlier, in third person, that's a whole different world for me. So this is what I'll say about The Division. I am not looking forward to stopping playing the game. I want to play more and see if I can get to grips with it. See if I can, get further, get past level 30, hit that end game stuff. So for me, like I said, I'd probably give it an 8. I think eight's a fair score in terms of everything it does right. And then just there are certain things that I don't quite enjoy. I've mentioned this, that gameplay loop of, get to an area, shoot, crouch, cover, go into cover, shoot again until everyone's dead, run to the next place. It's not quite, I don't find it super enjoyable, but I'm really intrigued to see, get better weapons, get better gear, and go a bit further. So I think, like I said, it's a solid 8, if not higher.
I mean, I would have personally given it, easily an 8. I think there's the sort of foundation that they've laid so far is really good, and I'm really interested to see how far it goes from this point. So I think at this point in time, our official NGB score for The Division 2 will be a solid 8 out of 10. We may well come back to it later on and do the updates as a separate review, but I think I'm also quite keen to get some streams on the go and stuff like that. So 8 out of 10 for The Division 2 at launch. Really good start, and that should be it. Cool. Thank you for joining me, Nico, and thank you for watching, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, please do leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if you're enjoying The Division 2. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you again for more content. Goodbye.